Throughout history, parents have found raising children can be a stressful task. Not me, I was an amazing child, and I can assure you it was my brother that broke my mum's record player. Not me. However, there have always been stories of strange creatures that will take children and cart them off into the night to devour them. Stories so terrifying even the grown-ups bolted their doors shut at night. Black Annis. So, Raid Shadow Legends still hasn't called. But you can support me by becoming a patron and getting access to these videos 48 hours early. Alternatively, the easiest way to support me is to simply like, subscribe, share, and tap that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload. Now on with the video. Lieutenant John Heyrick of the 15th Light Dragoons and later the 15th/19th King's Royal Hussars would write a poem called Black Annis's Bheur. Heyrick was described as a man of superior talents and a soldier of undaunted courage in Nicole's History of Leicester. Heyrick was also the husband of Elizabeth Heyrick, the famous abolitionist. Now, the poem we're about to go over would set the standard for stories about Black Annis. However, Black Annis in local oral tradition does predate the poem by some time. So, there is always bound to be differences between some of the stories and the poem. But the poem is the base point. You get the idea. Although it's not technically the base point because there was stuff that happened before. You get the idea. Let's just go with it. Where down the plain the winding pathway falls, from Glenfieldville to Leicester's ancient walls, nature or art with imitative power, far in the glen has placed Black Annis's Bheur. An oak, the pride of all mossy dell, spread its broad arms above the stony cell, and many a bush, with hostile fawns arrayed, forbid the secret cavern to invade, whilst delving vales each way meander round, then velvet banks with redolence abound. Heareth not the song of former days, soil not the page with falsehood's artful lays. Black Annis held her solitary reign, the dread and wonder of the neighbouring plain, and a shepherd grieved to view his waning flock, and traced his firstlings to the gloomy rock. No vagrant children cold the flowrets then, for infant blood oft stained the gory den. Not Sparta's mount for infant tears renowned, echoed more frequently the piteous sound. Oft the gaunt maid the frantic mothers cursed, whom Britain's wolf with savage nipples nursed, whom Leicester's sons beheld aghast the scene, nor dared to meet the monster of the green. 'Tis said the soul of mortal man recoiled to view Black Annis's eye, so fierce and wild. Vast talons foul with human flesh there grew in place of hands, and features livid blue glared in her visage, while the obscene waste warm skins of human victims close embraced. But time than man, more certain though more slow, at length 'gainst Annis drew his sable bow. The great decree the pious shepherds blessed, and general joy the general fear confessed. Not without terror they the cave survey, were hung the monstrous trophies of her sway. 'Tis said that in the rock large rooms were found, scooped with her claws beneath the flinty ground. In these the swains her hated body threw, but left the entrance still to future view, that children's might the tale rehearse, and bards record it in their tuneful verse. But in these listless days the idle bard gives to the wind all themes of cold regard. Forgive then, if in rough, unpolished song, and unskilled swain the dying tale prolong. And you, ye fair, whom's nature's scenes delight, if Annis's Bheur your vagrant steps invite, ere the bright sun Aurora's car succeed, or dewy evening quench the thirsty mead, forbear with chilling censures to refuse some generous tribute to the rustic muse, a violent common or daisy throw, such gifts as Maro's lovely nymphs bestow. Then shall your bard succeed the critic's frown, and in your smiles enjoy his best renown. Nestled 2 miles from the centre of Leicester sits the Dane Hills, a region of Leicestershire that possibly got its name from the fact a group of Danes decided to settle the region after they had finished, playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now a residential area, this area was once home to a cave known as Blackhannis's Bheur. This cave was home to an ogress or a witch known as Blackhannis, which obviously, makes sense. Some say she dug the cave out of a sandstone cliff using her talon-like nails. Blackhannis also goes by a few other names such as Black Agnes, Black Anna and Cat Anna, proving once and for all you cannot trust a cat girl, especially if she runs a hospital. Blackhannis is known to be incredibly tall, specifically her arms, which she uses to reach in through windows and snatch up sleeping children. Accompanying this, she has a very frail frame and blotchy blue skin. Her fingernails are said to be sharp like talons, and her mouth hosts a series of yellowed pointed teeth. Her hair is said to be long and straggly or straw-like, and is described as either jet black or grey. Depending on the story, descriptions may vary. Her eyes are described as glowing white or red. However, whilst some stories will describe her with 2 eyes, others will describe her with only 1 eye. Children who crept off into the Leicestershire woods would sometimes find themselves caught by the witch and dragged back to her cave so that she could eat them alive. Sometimes she would hunt them through the woods, sometimes she would pounce on them from within the darkness of her cave, and sometimes she would wait in the branches of the oak tree that either stood in front or on top of her cave, where she would pounce down on the unsuspecting victim. Once she was finished with her victims, Blackhannis would skin them, although in some stories she skinned them alive. She would then take the skins and hang them in her oak tree so that they could dry. She would then tan the hides and use them as clothing. Specifically, she rather liked having a skirt made of human skin. Specifically children's skin. Although in some stories she is dressed in all black robes. It's folklore, there's gonna be differences. Blackhannis didn't always eat her victims. According to the Leicester Chronicle in 1874, she scratched children to the point of unaliving, sucked out their blood, and then hung out their lungs. That would be an interesting washing discussion. You're right, Maureen. Oh, is that your underwear? To combat Blackhannis snatching up your kiddies or occasionally yourself, the locals of Leicester allegedly built their windows specifically small so that the ogress could only ever fit 1 arm in. She would then be unable to yank the child out of the window. You'd just be notified that Blackhannis was trying to nick your kid by the soft thud of their head on the windowsill. It is said that the teeth of the witch could be heard chattering as she prowled the woodlands and the settlements of Leicester, searching for her next victim. Imagine a creature walking past your house, its teeth chattering in pure anticipation of eating you. It is also said that Blackhannis let out horrifying howls into the night, similar to the banshees of Celtic folklore. These howls were allegedly so loud they could be heard from up to 5 miles away. The chattering and howling gave locals plenty of time to bolt shut their doors, cover their windows with animal skins, and hang special protective herbs above them. So with all these precautions, sometimes Blackhannis would be unable to find anyone to eat, so she would turn to the next best thing, the local livestock. Kind of similar to the wood woes, which I've already done a full video on if you want to go and check that out. Shameless self-plug. Luckily, the daylight offered sanctuary as Blackhannis would retreat back into her cave as the sunlight would turn her to stone, similar to the trolls of Scandinavian mythology. Eventually, her cave would be filled in. It's at this point she took up permanent residence in the cellar in Leicester Castle. There is allegedly a tunnel between Blackhannis's Bheur and the castle cellar. This allowed her to move easily between the 2 hunting grounds. In the castle, she became known for attacking people who travelled through Rupert's Gateway. It's also here that she garnered the name Cat Anna. There is a story of 3 young children playing outside their family home as their father was round the back chopping up some firewood and their mum was inside doing some needlework by the fire. As the children played, a horrific howl was heard coming from the Dane hills. The mother quickly ran out of the house, grabbing the youngest and pushing the other 2 children toward the house. The father ran into the house with his axe. Once everyone was inside, he pushed a large chest up against the door, whilst the mother covered the small windows of their cottage with animal skins and placing protective herbs above them. The family slept together by the fire as the howls grew louder and quieter as Black Annis prowled the night. Later in the year, the mother passed away with the father and her 3 children around her bedside. She passed holding onto her husband's hand, and once she had, he took off a necklace she was wearing and gave it to his eldest son. It was a hold stone which the father assured his son would protect him from evil. The father said if the son was ever in trouble, he should look through the hole. For a few short months, the family grieved their mother until the father found he was unable to take care of the 3 children alone. So he married again, but the stepmother was cruel, and she gave the children the hardest tasks and barely fed them. She ordered them to head into the woods one Halloween to gather some firewood. She bolted the door and told them she would let them back in once they had collected the bundle of sticks. It was already late afternoon when she forced the children out to gather the firewood. They struggled to find any decent loose wood, and very quickly the sun began to set. At this point, they heard an awful howl. The eldest son turned to see a blue face in the distance. At that distance, the oldest boy said they had plenty of time to make it home, and the youngest son said that she had poor eyesight, so she may have not even seen them. Looking through the hole in the stone, the eldest boy saw Black Annis lift her hairy nose and smell the air. Catching their scent, she pelted towards them, lifting up her black skirt so she could make up the distance. The boys dropped the firewood and ran as fast as they could, making it home to their father with Black Annis now quickly closing the gap. The father had been waiting for them and raced forward with his axe, past the 3 young boys and threw his axe. The axe landed deep in Black Annis's forehead, with green blood beginning to ooze from the wound. But Black Annis did not die, she simply retreated into the forest. The father ordered the stepmother to leave his home and bolted the door shut. The family was safe. Well, apart from the stepmother, but you know. There are other versions of this story. For instance, some take place on Christmas Eve instead of Halloween, and in some there is only 2 children instead of 3. And in others, they're not all young boys. A key difference here is Black Annis cuts her legs on the wood and is forced to retreat back to her cave to apply a salve. She then locates the family's cottage and duels with the father, but he manages to land the blow in her head. This only wounds her, however, and she isn't actually unalived until church bells begin ringing to signal Christmas Day. Black Annis can also be seen in DC Comics as the alter ego of the Crazy Jane or Kay Chalice in a storyline known as Doom Patrol. There's also a couple of plays either about her or in which she is included in some way. Some say Black Annis could transform into a large cat, and this may feed into a local ritual where an unalived cat would be dragged in front of a pack of hounds from Black Annis's Bheur to the mayor of Leicester's house. There is also an alternative version of this ritual where the cat was instead the head of a fake hunt because they were hunting the cat. Although I only saw one description of that, so I'm assuming it's the other ritual, or a mixture of 2. I don't know. Either way, the ritual died out towards the end of the 18th century. The YouTube channel Shrouded Hand posits that Black Annis may have just been a large predatory cat. However, he himself admits that the likelihood of a breeding population of large black cats in Leicestershire is highly unlikely. As human habitation expanded in Leicestershire, it is said that most of the woodland was cut down, apart from the oak tree above Black Annis's Bheur. It's definitely not there now, but we'll get to that in a second. Again, it's folklore. There's going to be differences. In some stories, the cave and the oak tree is deep inside the woodland. In other stories, the oak tree and the cave is all that's left of the ancient woodland. It is said that Black Annis would attack anyone who got too close to her cave or her tree, quite literally saying, hippity hoppity, get off my property, or you can stay for tea. Permanently. Blackhannis's Bheur allegedly shows up on the first ever Ordnance Survey map of Leicester, and the old oak tree is also said to have stood above the cave by local historian William Kelly. On my last visit to Bheur Close, now several years ago, the trunk of the old tree was then standing, but I know not if it still remains. At that time, and long previously, the mouth of the cave was closed, but in my schoolboy days it was open, and with 2 or 3 companions, I recollect on one occasion snatching a fearful joy by crawling on our hands and knees into the interior, which was some 7 or 8 feet long, by about 4 or 5 feet wide, and having a ledge of rock for a seat running along each side. According to Matthew Sibson, by comparing 3 differently aged OS maps of Leicestershire, the location of Blackhannis's Bheur can be revealed. It's just in someone's back garden, so you can't go on a pilgrimage to it or to see it. Not saying I believe in any of this, but there is actually no amount of money you could pay me to live in a house that is above or near or around or underneath or sideways, just in any proximity to an alleged witch's cave. That being said, if anyone would like to sponsor me, I will find a witch's cave and stay the night there. According to Sibson's article, the owner of the house did confirm that the deeds to their house include the cave, and the land is known as Black Anna's Bheur Close. Actually, I tell a lie. The curiosity would get the better of me and I would be opening that cave so quick. I am the scientific research team at the beginning of every apocalyptic movie. Earlier we briefly looked over the idea that Blackhannis could just be a large predatory black cat that either still prowls the area or is at least the twisted memory of one that has become this story. However, as you're about to see, there are many possible explanations for the origins of Blackhannis. It is possible that the origins of Blackhannis are truly ancient, linking to the Celtic mother goddess known as Danu or Anu. It is said that Danu was the creator or mother of mankind, and it is also said that she had a little bit of a vengeful streak. When she was worshipped back in the day, she probably would have been linked heavily to nature. It's possible she would have been worshipped in ancient Leicester and has just simply evolved into Blackhannis over the millennia. However, as is the case with many Celtic gods and goddesses, we don't actually know all that much about Danu. I cover the reasons for this briefly in my video on the Morrigan. Again, shameless self-plug. A theory put forward by Sibson is that at some point in the ancient past, Indo-Europeans witnessed a comet crash. Its blazing blue tail and destruction upon impact could have formed the basis for many gods and goddesses and figures from mythology and folklore. Perhaps this event was actually just local to ancient Leicestershire. It would be hard to actually prove or figure out how far back this version of events actually went. Either way, it would end up forming the Celtic goddess Danu and Blackhannis. And also possibly some other goddesses. Blackhannis could have links to other figures from British folklore, such as the Cailleach Bheur of Scottish folklore, otherwise known as the Blue Hag of the Highlands, and I would like to apologise to the entirety of Scotland for how horrific that pronunciation probably was. I don't know, maybe it was good. Let me know in the comments. The similarities between the two mean they may actually share some similar origins. English historian and folklorist Ronald Hutton claims that Blackhannis was actually at one point a real person named Agnes Scott. She was an anchoress who withdrew from society to live a life alone in the woods. She was allegedly a Dominican nun who went on to run a leper colony inside a cave in Leicestershire. She didn't just aid those afflicted with leprosy, however, she also helped the sick, the homeless, or just those down on their luck. Scott sadly passed away in 1455 and was buried at Swiftland Church. A memorial brass still remains at the church, engraved in Latin. Enclosed in this tomb lies Agnes Scott, called the devout mother of Lady Ferrers. Whoever found shall pass by, pour out prayers, I beg. I am what thou shalt be. I used to be what thou art. Pray for me, I pray. There is also a 3-foot veiled statue of the nun. Agnes Scott did wear a black habit, and this could have contributed to the name Black Annis. It's also highly possible as anti-Catholic rhetoric came along, Agnes Scott's reputation was purposely tarnished, and so she evolved into Black Annis. Danu is not the only goddess that Black Annis has been linked to. In the Hindu religion, Black Annis has been linked to the mother goddess Black Kali. Kali's skin is also blue, and she has a penchant for eating humans, and she also sports a lovely garland made of 50 heads around her neck. That is a fashion choice. There is also the hypothesis that Black Annis is just an incarnation of a witch who foretold the passing of Richard III as he crossed the Bow Bridge in Leicester. Allegedly, when Richard III crossed the bridge on his way to the Battle of Bosworth, his spur or foot struck a stone on the bridge. The wise woman or witch foretold Richard that on the return journey it would be his head that struck the stone. And allegedly on the return journey, his head smacked the exact same stone. I don't know if I believe that, I'm not gonna lie. Lastly, it has been postulated that Black Annis could be linked to the Scandinavian goddess Hel. In my opinion, there is a little shred of truth in all of the proposed origins and links to Black Annis. It's highly likely that over time, these stories have come together in various different ways throughout the world. The similarities between the Cailleach Bheur in Scotland and Black Annis in Leicestershire does make me think that they probably share a very similar origin, and I'm going to place bets that there may be a common ancestral story that could go back to the Indo-European period, and it's also then been influenced by other stories that have developed locally. That's just how stories develop. Every story is based upon another story. I also think telling children that scary monsters exist and will eat them if they misbehave is a parental pastime that exists before civilization even began, so as to how that story started, there's a fairly easy explanation for that. It's also likely that there was just a hermit that lived in the woods in Leicestershire and didn't like it when people went near their cave. And that brings us to the end of the video. What do you think of Black Annis? Was she real? Is she still real? Was she just a tale that evolved over time, or was she just a scary bedtime story that parents used to make their kids behave? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you did in the comments down below, and let me know what you'd like to see, or if I got anything wrong, or if there was anything I missed. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tap that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.